Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Cryptid Connections, the coolest fringe topic podcast in the world, and I stand by that statement. Tonight, we have a really, really wonderful guest. I'm super excited about this. I'm always excited, though. I love talking about this stuff. You guys know that. Mr. David Wilbanks is here. How are you doing tonight, Mr. Wilbanks?
Good. How are you, Kyle?
I am wonderful. Wonderful. I'm super excited about this. I went live today to talk about you coming on the show.
Yeah, I watched that.
Oh gosh, it got kind of crazy at the end there.
I didn't get to the end. I got busy here at the shop, but I got the first part of it. So
okay, well, good. It was a day. I'll just say that. So I'm super excited. I'm going to say hi to a couple people in the chat real quick before we get started. Who's here tonight? Let's see. The usual crowd. Cans, what's going on, brother? How are you, man? Good to see you. Sandra, Carson, Kathleen, Bigfoot Lake, brother, how are you? Lynn, Brown Dwarf, of course, Cashew. Thank you for being here.
Of course, Cashew. She is.
Of course. She is wonderful, amazing, incredible. Actually, Alexander Petikoff was on the other night, and he said, who is this Cashew person who every time I mention anything, within an instant, the link is popping up on screen?
She has superpowers. She really does.
Yeah, we think she's part AI.
Oh, my God. I want. No, I've actually spoken with her, so I know she's real.
Yeah, she's amazing. Hello, Kat. Hey, Sandra, Lynn, Janelle, I think. Angel, Mean Green Machine, Red Scout. Wow, Pyromedic. Thank you guys for being here. How are you all tonight? Hope you had a great day. So anyway, let's get this bad boy started. Since this is your first time on this show, I like to start right at the beginning. What got you started in researching in the Bigfoot field, or even just interested in this topic in general?
Well, interest started when I was very young. I see people over in the chat that have known me for a while, so this will be old news to them. But basically, back in the late 60s and the very early 70s, my mother worked for a veterinarian who was from down in the Broken Bow area in the southeast corner of the state. Now, at the time, it was closer to where I live now, but he took a job with the federal government as a veterinarian, so shut down his practice and moved back down to the deep southeast part of the state. So we would go down there about every month or two and visit, stay the weekend with him. And he had a book, and at this time, keep in mind, I was probably 5-6 years old. And he had that book by Roger Patterson called The Abominable Snowmen in America Really Exist. And most importantly, for a 5 or 6 year old, it is very well illustrated. So I remember before I read anything in it, I knew right where that was on the bookshelf. So And he was a very scientific individual. His name was Dr. Lewis Stiles, a complete expert on wildlife, anything outdoors. I mean, he was a true authority on these things, and he had an interest in Bigfoot. Now, he did not believe in Bigfoot, but he was fascinated with the possibility that something like that might exist, and he approached it from a very scientific manner. Show me proof. What have you, evidence based, and that was basically my inspiration on looking into this too. And I do my best to carry on that tradition. But that's where it all started. And then, of course, as we talked about before we went live, any book clubs, it was in school back in, and I don't know how old you are. I'm assuming you're a little younger than me anyway, but back in the mid-late 70s, we had book clubs, and anything about Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, UFOs, you name it, man, I would talk my parents into getting me that book.
Yep.
And I've still got those books.
Me too. Yeah, me too.
So,
yeah. I was the same way. I if I saw those books, I had to have them. And they're still on the bookshelf in my parents' basement.
yeah, I got to say, we were talking about Cashew's superpowers with look how quick she did.
Yeah.
I think she sensed it when I was just thinking it, and she did. She's so fast, she's almost telepathic, I think.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Man, I don't get it. I really don't.
She is the best, that's for sure.
The best. Absolutely. Janelle. Oh, Janelle's another one. Yeah. Janelle's awesome. She says, Mark, we got to get Kyle down here. I need to come down there. You're right. I've been wanting to go down there so bad. I need to get down south, man. I'm up in Connecticut, and Connecticut is not known as a very squatchy place. They are here. Don't get me wrong. But they're in pockets. They're, really only up in the northern part of the state, and kind of up in both corners is where you can find evidence of them and activity. But it's nothing like what I hear from down in the southern states, and even kind of in the central part of the United States. It's just nothing like that down there. So anyway, okay, you were like me. You liked the study. You loved anything that had to do with it. The books kind of drew your imagination in. And what was the very first investigation, I guess, that you went on? Do you remember what the first one was? Probably, I'm assuming.
Well, the first one, and I think I mentioned it in my book. I do actually start the book off with it. The gentleman I was telling you about, Dr. Stiles, when I was about 10 years old, there was a report in the McCurtain County newspaper down there about somebody at an area down in it's a real swampy area down, they call it Yonnaby Lake, which is basically just a cypress slough. Somebody had been down there and ran into a Sasquatch. So I put my 10-year-old mind to work, trying to figure out how to get Lewis and my dad to take me down there on a fishing trip. And I pulled it off, and and you can't get to it now. It's a wildlife preserve, and it's completely shut off to the public. But it took us, I don't know how long you could only go in the dry part of the season. Otherwise it was impassable. And we had to drag a canoe through all this brush and cypress knees and stuff to get down to the water. And the only reason I call that my first expedition is because my dad and Lewis, they were fishing. I was pretending to fish. My eyes was looking in those bushes, I just knew that Bigfoot just had to be there watching us, But anyway, but no, as far as the first serious, I honestly cannot tell you the exact first one, because for my adult life, primarily starting in about the mid 1990s is when I started documenting, seriously looking into this. And about 98, maybe 99, I started a website called southernbigfoot.com, and people would send me their, reports. Of course, keep in mind then there wasn't YouTube and all of that. It was just, they would type it out and send it to me. And if it was a report that, and I would, anyone that gave me permission, I would post their reports on the website where people could read it. If they didn't want me to post it, I wouldn't. I'd just, file it away. But if it was close enough to me and interesting to me enough and current enough, I would go and investigate these sightings.
Now, so you also did some work on the documentary film Bigfootville. Is that correct?
I am Bigfootville.
You are Bigfootville.
I shouldn't say it that way, but seriously, I'll tell you how that happened. When I had the website I was telling you about, a producer from England named Bruce Burgess contacted me by email. And at first I thought it was just a joke because you have a website like that, you're going to get crackpots too. And I thought, okay, somebody's pretending to be a producer for the Travel Channel and whatever. So I ignored the first. He sent me another, and I spoke to him, and he said, hey, I'm wanting to do a documentary on Bigfoot sightings in Oklahoma and found your website. Would you be interested in helping me with this project? And I was like, sure, absolutely. And the only thing that surprises me about that project is I got paid. And I was just so excited about the prospect of it that I didn't even think about it. But anyway, so I talked to Bruce a few times on the phone, and this would have been probably July or August of 2001, right in that area. Yeah, that's probably right. But he came, but then he came to Oklahoma by himself and met with me. And the largest part of the people taking part in the documentary are who I introduced him to, that I was connected to. And we talked to them. And my premise, with Bruce, I said, look, here, I'll work with you if you will agree to not at least purposely try to make me or anybody I introduce you to look bad, because I know these people. Sure. They're not, these are people from my circle of friends and stuff. And he agreed, and he didn't, I think he did a solid on it. The only part in that documentary that I wish he hadn't have done is when it shows the gentleman shoot his handgun into the woods. The way it looks, somebody watching it will think that he's shooting at something in the woods. He was not. That was a police officer named Dan Belda, which I knew. And Bruce, the producer, asked him if he would fire his handgun into that berm like he was when he was target shooting. He said, sure. And he did. But then when it's the way it's kind of edited into the film, and I can't tell you how many emails and stuff I got about gun safety and stuff. And I had to explain there's never anybody or any creature in the line of fire. There was a dirt bank you don't see there that bullet was going into.
Unbelievable.
But anyway, that's the only part really. And the other part is, and this didn't have anything to do with me, was when he said that the term Bigfoot come from Dr. Grover Krantz, which it absolutely did not, but anyway, I give him a pass on that. He didn't know any better, but all in all, I think they did us a really good job on that. But anyway, Bruce, he came down the first time, and I want to say it was in late September, maybe early October. And I introduced him to people, and then we got in my truck. I took a few days off from work, and I drove him all over the south central part of the state, down to the far southeast corner, all the way up to the northeast corner of the state, talking to people here and there, setting up places where we were going to do the shooting. And then we went back here to my hometown. He flew back to the UK. And then he showed up in late November with the film crew. And that's when it, and he had made contact with a couple of other people here. The lady that's on there named Cindy Bear. Now, she's one that I did not know at all before this. She was a news lady with the Tulsa television station. And he had contacted her and he wanted a news person on there as well, so he got a hold of her. And the skeptical scientist that it shows briefly there, it kind of talks with the lisp, I have no idea who that guy was. That's just somebody. I think Bruce he might have just, well, I don't know if you say Googled back then, but looked up scientists or something in America. Just kept calling until he got one that said, yeah, I'll be on that.
Oh,
I feel bad because he got to get the internet ire from everybody to make fun of him because he was the non-believer, But no, it was a great time. I'm glad it's an experience, you know, to be on it. I would work with Bruce again if he wanted to. I thought he treated me fairly. And
I don't know if you ever heard me talk about this, but that film was kind of a pivotal film for me. Because of what happened to me, I was, had this trauma or whatever and stayed away from the woods for so long. And then kind of dove in head first into as many documentary films, TV shows, articles, books that I could. But that film specifically was the one that I remember where people were really talking about their sightings of these things very openly. They were describing what they saw. It was a bunch of people from, the same place, maybe not obviously the same town but whatever, the same place. And I thought, wow, like, okay, there's people out there who are seeing stuff that's similar. Maybe not exactly, but it's similar, and kind of made me feel like, well, all right, this, maybe there's other groups of people who you can connect with, and kind of gave me a little bit more courage, I guess you could say. But I'd still, to this day, it's still one of my favorites. I really love that film. I think they did a great job on it. And
well, I have referred to it, and of course, I'm a little biased because I worked on it. I call it kind of, if not it's one of the last of the older style documentaries like they used to make. Like, and I'm not putting down any of the new stuff like that, but the newer trend seems to be more, what do you call it? Reality TV type stuff,
Yeah.
Walk through the woods, build it up, and go go to a commercial. To keep it there, and then when it comes back on, oh, a cow. And I mean, I understand it. They got to keep the momentum rolling because that's the way they make their living. But and the funny thing about it, I'm kind of poking fun, but I still watch all those shows when they come on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so do I.
Like, I know nothing's going to happen. I'm still going to watch it. Because the one time I don't watch it, there's going to be something really neat.
Right.
So
yeah, but it was very well done. I enjoyed it. I still enjoy it. I mean, what was that? You said that was 2001 around when that was made?
Yeah. Now they didn't air it until it didn't air till 2003, but we did the actual filming in late November of 2001.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Usually takes a little while when they film something before it gets out.
And I'm going to shamelessly advertise here. I go into detail about all of that trip, working with the Travel Channel and the people involved. There's some funny stuff in there that went on that was, I mean, funny, like, fond memory type funny, but I go into very much detail on that in my book.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that. I just ordered that book, Kiyomichi, Bigfoot. We actually spoke, I think, on Facebook, and I told you that I was really excited to read that one specifically. Both, but that one was the one that I was really excited to read. I love the real stuff. I like a good fiction book. Don't get me wrong, but I really like hearing.
I'll tell you this: when I write something and I call it nonfiction, I'm very adamant. But there's enough in the fictional book because that's based on, actual happenings that I could have put based on a true story, but it's
Oh,
not.
okay.
Now, when you get the Champé and read it, the stuff about the mean Bigfoot, that is completely made up. Stuff about actual sightings and encounters that's in it with the not mean Bigfoots, those are all based on actual experience and sightings.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
So,
now I'm excited to read. But I was excited to
and
read both.
well, I get you this: when the researcher that is in the Champé, his conclusions on what he finds out these things really are, that is actually my thoughts on what I believe they probably are. So
Okay.
there's your heads up. So
Okay. Now we have to read because we need to know what you
yeah,
think. So yeah, the two books. The link is right here on the screen, guys. I put them in the both of the book covers were in the thumbnail for tonight, so you know what to look for. Also, I don't know if I put the link to them in the description, but I will. I can edit that right after this, and I'll make sure I put the link in the description for the books. You guys can go on and order them. And yeah, I'm excited. I think that book comes in maybe tomorrow or the next day. Actually, I think it's next 1 or 2 days. So I'm excited to read it. I really am. I needed something new. And
I had a pretty good spike of orders today on Amazon, I noticed. So if you were responsible for some of that, I really appreciate it.
oh, I don't know if I can take credit for it, but I mean,
Hey, any of it I appreciate. See, here's the thing. Any money I make off these books, my
yes,
wife
sir.
has no problem with me spending that money on trips to the mountains and things like that. So
Okay. All right. All right. So that's good then. I'm glad you had a spike though. That's great. That's awesome. Hopefully we'll get you another one once we put the description. I'll even make a post actually about it on the community tab so that even more people can see it. That's what we do here, man. Try to help out anybody else in this community who's a good person. It's kind of what the whole feeling is of this channel. And
yeah, we
people,
need more of that.
yeah, I think so too. I
Need
totally
more of
agree.
that.
There's enough divisiveness. I don't think it's helping us further this subject at all. And I think we would do much more if we all could just put the egos aside and say, listen, man, like it doesn't hurt anybody to help each other out. There's enough room for everybody. Chances of me or you finding a Bigfoot to lay on a table and study and say, hey, I found it first, are pretty slim. So,
Well, I wouldn't do that. I would not do that anyway.
Yeah. Well, no, I wouldn't either. I'm just saying, like, the people who wanted to discover this thing,
Right.
I mean? I just think your chances are you're pretty slim. It's not. I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime.
I'll say this to anybody that doesn't know me over there. I'm squarely in the no-kill camp.
Me too. 100%.
I told a person one time he had intention of wanting to shoot one of these creatures. I said, do not take me with you because I'll ruin your shot.
Good man. I can't even listen. I take if I find a bug inside that's not supposed to be inside, I take it outside. Like,
I'm the same way. I'm the same way.
It's not me, man. It's not me.
I do not kill needlessly. If it's not a direct threat to me or one of my families, or if I'm not going to eat it, I do not kill it.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not going to eat a Sasquatch.
No, I wouldn't. I'm good, man. I've tried some weird stuff, but that's probably outside of my box. I'd imagine it's probably pretty tough. Oof.
May taste like chicken.
Maybe. Everything does, doesn't it? Right?
I don't know. I was watching a documentary on the cannibals in Papua New Guinea, and they called human meat long pork. They said humans taste like pig.
Really?
Yeah. You can keep that in your mind now.
Man, I do love bacon.
Yeah, bacon is just meat candy.
Right. Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. All right. So Oh, that's great. So I have been waiting for a moment with you to talk about something specific, and I'm sure you saw it earlier. Um, I need to talk about the video from the casino
You
of the
need
big. I
you
need to.
need it.
I need to hear this from you
Okay.
because this is like a myth on top of a legend. You know what I mean? Like this,
No, it actually is a myth on top of a legend, because
really.
one of the things. Okay, I'm I've since Bigfootville, I really haven't tried to be in the limelight on much of anything, but I've continued to do my research, continued to go to the Comanche Mountains, but I just haven't been putting it out there till a couple of years ago. But what really inspired me to do a YouTube channel was some of the, how do I put it kindly, like BS type stuff that was everywhere about what went on there. And so I just said, well, all I can say is what I witnessed and what I saw there of it, and I'll put that out just so that is, and that's all there is to it. So, do you want me to start from the start of it?
Oh, I want you to start right from the
Okay.
start.
So
Yes, sir.
at the time period around 1999, 2000, uh, it was only for one summer, okay, but I was a volunteer, if you will, for the BFRO. Okay, that was in the earlier days. I want to say Matt started that in like '96, if I'm right or whatever. But there was a investigator who is basically a private investigator by trade in Oklahoma named Roger Roberts. He was the actual BFRO contact in that part of Oklahoma, and I cannot remember exactly how I met Roger and got involved in it. I'm sure I would get really manic when I got my mind on something at that time. If I had a goal, I would just get on. I probably just bugged him to death with emails till he said, okay, come on, but I'm not positive on that. But anyway, Roger and I, when a report would go to the BFRO from Oklahoma, uh, I guess Matt would send that report to whatever investigator, researcher, whatever you want to call them, was closest to it. And me and Roger would have been in that. So I got an email from Matt about that casino incident, and I knew where it was. It was out in the western part of the state. And my first reaction was, why would a Bigfoot be doing out there? That's right, kind of on the prairie. It just didn't make much sense. And I remember him saying, well, they say they've got it on surveillance video. And I said, well, that changes things. I'm going to go up there. So I was the first one to get on the tribal land there, reservation, and looked up the gentleman that I was supposed to, who sadly I just found out he's passed away. His name was Keith. And I met with him, and he showed me around like the property. There was a patch of woods. First of all, have you ever heard the old, what they call the chicken man from Oklahoma?
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this was in that general area that I found out, because you had the North Canadian River runs through there, and those river bottoms are very heavily wooded. Not very far north of there, near El Reno, was this casino. And on the casino, about probably 3/4 mile or a mile or so direct west of the casino, was an area of ground that had a lot of natural springs. So there was a pretty thick patch of woodland there. And this gentleman took me out there, showed me a game trail where this things had been walking. And yeah, I was finding footprints in the sand, like big. I mean, I cast them anyway. The casts don't show you anything but a human shaped foot with no toe definition, but these things were like 16, 17 inches long. Now, it's very sandy soil out there through this wood. A lot of blackjack, what they call blackjack oak, post oak type stuff, cedar, scrub, like scrub brush type stuff. And handed this one, I think it was Keith, maybe one of the people there handed me a sample of some hair, which I will say suspiciously just looked like human hair, black human hair. But anyway, that was sent back to the BFRO as well, and nothing was ever heard of it again. So I'm assuming it didn't turn out to be anything unknown, or we'd be hearing about it. But anyway, so during the daylight hours, this gentleman named Keith showed me around out there on the property where these other people had reported seeing these creatures and stuff. And the thing is, the footprints that they're showing me, they weren't of just one individual creature. There were 3 different sizes that I saw when I was there. So, and some of them, well, I could say 4, but the prints that they were showing me that was down close to a creek, they were saying was from a young Bigfoot. They were too indistinguishable for me to really say, definitely. But there was definitely a lot of activity around there. So we go back. Roger, he arrives there closer to dark. And he had a friend of his with him. I don't know his friend's name. This guy was not a Bigfoot guy. He was just a personal friend of Roger's that came along. And us 3 are who were let into the security room in that casino. Now, I remember we had to sign some kind of release forms before they let us in there, I guess, for just protocol. But if they still have those, my signature is on one of them papers along with Roger and this other fellow. So let us into they have a room where they have your video screens set up in there where they can monitor the tables and stuff inside. But there's also screens on there where they're monitoring the doors on the outside of the casino, which is in the back. And in the back, which would have been the west side of the casino, the surveillance camera, which I'm assuming would have been over the door, but you didn't see the door, was facing this grease trap. And I mean, if you're just looking at it, it's a dumpster is what it looks like, except what sets it apart, instead of just the big lids you open up on top like on a dumpster, you had the top, but you had a smaller lid about 2 foot square on top of it that they could lift it up, pour the old cooking grease in and shut it. And what was happening was these creatures, or one creature's all that I saw, was coming up trying to get into the grease trap at night. Now, the video that we saw that they showed us was just for a few seconds. Okay, but what we were shown, and if there's more video or if it goes longer than what they showed us, I don't know. But the first thing you notice, and this would have been coming from the north, and we saw the tracks where it had stepped over the fence that's in this field out there, just to the north and west of where the grease trap was. And it walked kind of for a little while on the parking lot. And the first thing you seen was not the form of it. You seen what looked like a little bit of a glow. Now, this is the only part of the recollection of it that me and Roger are a little bit different on, is he interpreted that little glow that you briefly see as eye shine, where I thought it was the reflection off the hair on the top of its head or something. And that's neither here nor there. Roger could be right, but that's just my perception was that. But the first thing you notice is that little bit of a glow, and then it just kind of materializes under the lights. See, over the you know what? I'm going to, if I can do this, if you'll give me a second. Yeah. I've got a picture of that dumpster on my phone here.
Oh, okay.
And
awesome.
I will hold this up to the camera so you'll see exactly. And Kyle, you're the first one I've ever done this for.
Oh man. This is like the holy grail for me, and probably for a lot of people, like you hear the story, but to be in this topic in this field, I think so many of us have dreamed of seeing that video at some point.
There's a picture of me and Carrie Arnold there.
Oh,
I miss that guy, man.
He was such a Special guy, man. Special guy.
Where's that at? No, I've
Let's
got
see.
it on here. It may take me a minute to find it.
That's all right. You take your time. I'm going to scroll through these comments real quick and see if anybody's got.
But anyway, as we're talking, I'm looking for it.
Oh, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know about the Chicken Man, it was I forget what year. Let me see if it was
in like 1973 or so.
Yeah, somewhere around there. And there was a El Reno, Oklahoma, in December, a guy had gone out to his chicken coops and seen that someone or something had ripped the door from its hinges. Oh, too close. Oh, because your green screen is
well, it still is doing okay. I'm gonna
Can you send me that picture?
Well,
you don't. Oh, you don't have to. You don't have to. It's probably kind of a.
The green screen. You probably can't see it. Well, I didn't think the green screen did it. Can I kill it green screen a little bit? No, I can't. Yeah, I tell you what. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
How do I do that?
Right. If you you can send it right through Messenger where we were talking before.
I got you. You should get it in just a second.
Okay. So
look on your Facebook. Did you get it?
Got it. Perfect.
Okay. So
Perfect. Okay, so
all right, see how that works there? And see the gentleman standing beside it. See that light pole?
Yep.
Okay. That creature's head, as it stepped under that light, almost came to the bottom of that light.
Get the hell out of here.
And me and Roger, we measured up that. And the only thing I'd ask Kyle is don't share that picture with other people.
I won't share that with anybody.
But anyway, that you have that. So me and Roger, we went out there with a tape measure and measured up that pole. And the best we could come up with is that that creature was like 9.5 feet tall.
Wow.
And it was very tall, very lanky. It was not big, bulky type like in the Patty film, but the few steps where we actually saw it clearly move, it walked with that kind of bent knee fashion, just almost glided along there, and it just took a few steps, and it leaned over like to place its hands on top of that, and that was all we saw. But it was enough that we could, we saw that. Now, the surveillance video is not like in, you've seen surveillance videos like behind things in the dark, but it was dark colored. We could tell it was covered in, and over 9 feet tall. So what you can deduce from that, and just the fluid way that it moved, that rules out a guy in a monkey suit.
Yeah.
And I still remember at that point, I remember looking over at Roger and going, well, I'll be darned, they are real. Up to that point, I'd taken reports for people. I was a hopeful skeptic, and I just enjoyed looking into it. But I still wanted to, an experience myself that I could, concretely say, yes, I think that's all it could be. And that was the first piece of evidence I saw that I just don't know anything else it could have been.
Unbelievable.
And then not long after that, people started making a nuisance of themselves on reservation property there, people trespassing on tribal property, just being an annoyance basically, and coming to the casino wanting to see, because the people at the casino had actually made a cast or two of tracks out in the field. And so people were coming into the casino, this from what I was hearing secondhand later, coming in there wanting to talk about Bigfoot instead of spending money gambling and stuff, and that's just not good for business. So they just finally said, that's enough of that, no more of this, So with that being said, I don't blame them whatsoever. I just feel extremely fortunate to have been uh, one of the very few people that saw that actual piece of footage.
Yeah, I have to show this one more time because I just looking at this is I say this a lot because I think that it's sometimes it's easy to neglect the just how large 8 feet is or 9 feet is, right? I think
Mhm.
it's thrown out often. Oh, these things are 8 feet tall to 9 feet tall to 10 feet tall. And if you don't really think about that, just look at this picture one last time and you'll never ever see it again for me. But is this is insane. Look at this. If that thing's head came just below the top of that light, look at that man standing there, people, please. Look how high that light is. That's a giant. That's a giant. That I it's amazing. It's amazing. It's and it didn't disappoint one bit. I've heard it before. Don't get me wrong. I've heard it before, but I have had to hear it from you personally because it just meant that much more to me. And so, yeah, incredible. Pyromedic says, imagine though a video so good it convinced a skeptic in a few seconds. Yeah, imagine that. Imagine that. And imagine if that video was circulated. Um, Maybe there'd be other people out there who would start believing also, or there'd be people to um, be able to study this video the way that they have many others, including the Patterson Gimlin footage, and it would give us a little more. But how? That's
Let me
just go ahead.
let me say this about that area though.
Yeah.
Um, that is not a place where these creatures could live there in an extended amount of time. The pockets of wood are too concentrated and stuff there. So if they were there all the time, they would leave a lot of evidence. So like I said, the North Canadian River's not far from there. Um, I think they migrate through that area from time to time, and since there are natural springs which attracts wildlife, which is a food source like deer and such as that, there, I think they will from time to time because there'll be times, from what I understand, there'll be periods of time when nobody reports anything like that around, and then all of a sudden there are. So I think that's kind of a what you call a way station or something like that for them, maybe where they stop on their way through.
Yeah, and get a little grease snack on their way.
Yeah.
Um, that's crazy, man. That's really, really amazing. And uh, to be a person who was in that room when this happened, that you're part of Bigfoot lore that so many people know about and wish they could have had a part in. I mean, that's a pretty cool thing to be a part of, and to be one of the first people in to watch that video. It's just amazing. It's amazing. So thank you for sharing that with us. I wanted to ask you about another thing that you were a part of. And it's because it was one of these things that I watched, and it was very intriguing to me. Watching what was going on his property was Mark Copeland's property. He seemed to have some crazy
Mm.
stuff going on there for a while, man. Uh-oh, we're losing him. Oh no, don't go. Um, and Ollie's here. Ollie's showing up. Ollie shows up every time I go live. Ollie gets involved. This is Ollie. Well, this is Ollie's back and tail. He loves to show up when I'm on live. He doesn't bother me all day, but every single live, he decides he's going to come and be a part of it for at least a little while. So this is his moment to get his 5 minutes of fame. So yeah, you helped Mark when he first had some of his issues going on, and that was some crazy stuff that he had going on there, man. It seemed to be.
Yeah, sure was. Now I'm not the first Bigfoot person that Mark talked to during that time. I don't know, I might be the first one that actually came out there. I'm not 100% positive, but I did spend quite a bit of time out there uh, at his place during that, and as you know, Kerry Arnold actually came up there, him and Brad, and did a documentary, which they included me in as well. And that was my first time to actually meet Kerry in person. I was very impressed with his character and the way he treated people. He's very unassuming with Mark. He didn't lead him on in the interview or nothing. He just let him have his say. And um, I was. Kerry was planning on coming to Oklahoma and doing some stuff with me at a later date too, and that just didn't work out. I talked to Kerry the day before he had the accident.
Yeah, so did I.
About that, so
yeah, it was crazy.
Certain man, love it while you got it.
That's right. It was just crazy. We spoke the day before. We spoke the 3 days leading up to that, and then it's tough to talk about still. But he just had this way of connecting with people from the moment that he spoke to you. It was like he treated you like you were his friend forever, and he was just so kind and giving of and selfless. I don't know how he had any time to himself whatsoever, but he freely gave whatever time he had or made time to give away to people who asked for it on a regular basis.
See, I was in the Kamishi Mountains last I spoke to him because I was up there, done a book signing. In the mountain that I was on, I had cell phone signal, and Kerry got a hold of me. I guess he'd had a cancellation or something, wanted to know if I'd come on the show that night. I said, well, I'm kind of on top of a mountain out in the middle of nowhere right here, Well, hey, call me when you get back. He said, I want to talk about what you found there and all that and whatever. And then the next thing I heard, I got a message from somebody that said they felt horrible for his wife. And I was like, I thought something happened to her, and I've still got, I texted Kerry. I said, hey, is everything all right? Of course it wasn't, so.
Yeah, it was the same for me. I was on the show Friday, supposed to come back Sunday. We talked after the show Friday, then we spoke Saturday. Then Sunday he came and he was at work and he said, I can't do it. We're having all kind of problems here. I'm going to have you back on tomorrow. And then we spoke Monday, and he said, man, I forgot. I had somebody else booked today. And he said, I don't know what you got going on later this week, bud, but, in that great tone that he had in his voice, it was just, it was so melodic, man. It really was. And he just said, so we'll talk tomorrow. We'll get you all squared away, get you back on. And then same thing. I had gotten a few messages after my first appearance, just a few, like 4 or 5, that said, oh, it was a great show. I think you guys did really well together, blah, blah, blah. And then I woke up on Tuesday and I had like 50 messages. And I'm going, what in God's name is going on? And the first message I saw was, what a great episode, R.I.P. Kerry. I went, what? What are we talking about? And then I read through and saw, and I honestly, I didn't believe it. It just seemed so completely unreal to me at that moment. I just didn't. It was only hours ago that we spoke, and Kerry just had the thing, man, where he was just his character and his charisma and his personality were so much larger than life that it was very difficult to accept the fact that somebody like him could be gone. And he was just getting started, man.
Well, man, just my opinion, there's no greater way to honor your friends that have gone than to keep their memory alive with kind words.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
100%. 100. I've said this since the beginning. This channel wouldn't be here without him. It just wouldn't. He was the one who encouraged me to do this. I had talked about it. I didn't talk about doing this kind of show. I talked about doing a channel, but he encouraged me to go this route. Even he said, you got something to share it. Just go share it. It's your responsibility to. And he was just so encouraging, man. And his whole philosophy too was that there's enough room for everybody. He always said, there's no time slots, kid. That's what he told me. He goes, there's no time slots, kid. There's enough room on YouTube. There's enough room in the world for all of us to do our thing in this subject. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you've noticed before too. It's really hard to get a podcast and not be on somebody's time somewhere. But I've had podcasts going where you can tell people are going over to this one, then back to this, and popping in, saying hi and stuff like that. And that's fine. I appreciate everybody that stops in.
Sure, yeah. And I again, like I don't even look who's on when anymore. Whenever my guests can go on, I try to do it in the evenings because that more people are home and they're able to watch, right? But whenever my guest can do it, that's when I do it, period. I used to try to say, I'm going to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 p.m. That's it. And I did that for like 3 weeks. And I said, this is ridiculous. I can't do this. I have to kind of be flexible about this and just be fluid. Let it happen the way it's supposed to happen. And that's what we do now. And it works out good.
You were mentioning Mark's place and his. So I saw it in the chat. Somebody asked what Mark you're talking about. It's his YouTube channel is called Livewire. Yeah, Cashew beat me to it. She, I swear, Cashew is telepathic. She just is. Yeah,
she's the oracle.
she is the for sure. She should have her own show. I guarantee it'd be a hit.
It would.
But then where would we be, right? Without Cashew.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But anyway, Mark had contacted me through email from the YouTube channel, my email that I put on there, and he lives not far from me. Actually, he at the time anyway, it's about an hour drive from my house, and he agreed. I said, look, if you're comfortable with it, I said, I'd love to come out there and kind of poke around in the woods behind your house, and he said, yeah, that's fine. And so went there and met with him. He's really nice, family real nice and all. And right now, Cashew. Right now, David's wondering what flavor of ice cream. How did you know I was going to eat ice cream, Cashew? Anyway,
I gotta post this. I'm putting it up right now. There we go.
Now I'm a little scared. I was actually wondering that, but anyway, let me get not the best there. So anyway, I got there and Mark showed me around his place, and literally there were game trails. You could tell where these things were walking to come up to get close to his house. And the first thing that got his attention about it, he didn't know anything about it until his kids started talking about the one, I think the little boy had said there was a big black man, and I'm not talking about racial, I'm talking about a black colored humanoid figure that would follow him when he would get off the bus, follow him to the house inside the cover of the tree line. And I believe, remember right, Mark had got him a battery powered, those little Jeeps that kids can drive,
right.
Sit there and drive. And he made the comment to Mark that, well, he can't catch me now, and that's what he's talking about, the thing in the woods. And anyway, Mark just thought he was, kid's imagination. And then his he had cameras around his house that would, snap pictures of like the woods and stuff. And he actually captured several pictures of a black humanoid figure, like standing behind a tree, looking toward the house. And I found and cast, I cast one footprint that was in the woods that come up close to where his parents' house, because there's two houses there. You had a shed. If you watch Kerry's documentary he made on this, you know how the layout is there. And his parents' house set right against the woods. And this trail where I cast the one tracks come within just 15, 20 foot of the western edge of his parents' house that was right against the tree line. So there was never anything any acts of aggression toward the house, but he was uneasy because of the kids, and and I don't blame him. You never know. So long story short, he finally moved his family back to Arkansas.
Oh yeah. That was it was pretty crazy. I saw some of the video there that they took, the surveillance video he got, or the game camera videos. I forget what it was. There was what seemed like maybe 4 of these things that were crossing the yard at one point. You're
talking about out around the horses?
Yeah, that must have been where it was.
Yeah, I tell you, the original part of that's kind of hard to make out, but Kerry had some better equipment, I guess, that you could make it out more. And it was like these couple of juvenile Sasquatch, for lack of a better word, would run from the tree line out amongst the horses and go back. And this is in pitch black. This is late at night. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that really that there's a Bigfoot there, that's interesting and weird enough, right?
Yeah.
The horses were not scared of these things.
Really?
So keep that in mind.
So the
horses were accustomed to the presence of these creatures because they were not stampeding away or anything.
So they must have been coming around for a while.
I think so. And there's so much evidence in the woods. Even take away any of the pictures that Mark had.
Yeah.
Just the evidence. I cast the track. The track I cast near his parents' house was about 15 inches long.
Okay.
I found a track, and in my book, I've got a picture of the cast, the print was in a leaf litter, and I had to get the leaves out of it to cast. It's not the best, but you definitely get the idea, the size and the form of the track. But I found a nice track in the mud in a highline cut that was not any longer than my foot, but it was that very wide heel, wide ball of the foot, Sasquatch track. And I've got a picture of that in my book as well. And I go into detail, pretty extensively about Mark's as well. So yeah, that was a very interesting case that I was on. I think I'm trying to remember how many times I had went to his house. 4 or 5 times, 5 probably, counting when Kerry was out there, and now Kerry, he would not go out into those woods after dark.
Yeah, that was back when he was still having a hard time getting in.
I guess so, because he made the comment. If you watch the part where there's a live part where we're all just sitting around a campfire out there at Mark's deal, and we can hear something walking in the woods over there, and Kerry, I don't know if he made the comment on the video or not, but he made it when I was there. He said, "We're hearing something in the woods. I'm not going in the woods." He says, "Where does David go? Into the woods." But but be real, at that time with that many of us sitting around, there was probably deer or something like that. But whatever it was,
maybe
it did. Yeah, and maybe it might have been a curious Sasquatch.
Man, that's awesome. So I'd like to hear, I always ask everybody this question, any researchers that come on the show, anybody who does any field work. Can you tell me, out of every investigation or every time you've been in the woods, what is the one time, investigation, event, encounter, experience that stands out the most to you? That's either the most scary, nerve-wracking, exciting. What's the one? Everyone kind of has that big one. So what is it for you?
Well, there's several actually.
Okay, well, let's
The
write them out.
Well, I mean, I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. Most recent was just a few weeks ago. Will from Will Star Mysteries YouTube channel was down, and we had a lot of movement around our camp, a lot of vocalization, and highlighting. I actually caught the sound of this hitting the ground. One of these, they had to be, I don't know what else. Something threw a rock at the edge of our camp, and I actually caught the sound of it on the video camera as it hit and bounced.
Nice.
You know, that was the most recent. You know, I was giddy as the only thing I could think of, and not scared, but giddy. I was just like so excited. But I'll start with the oldest. A little could be nerve wracking. Here's the deal: when something that you don't expect to happen happens, you say, "Man, I'd be scared to death." No, the thing is, if something unexpected happens, when you get scared is when it's over and you're at home and you're laying in your bed about to go to sleep and you're thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was a police officer for a while. Sometimes something scary happened like that could have gone wrong but didn't. Mm-hmm. I didn't really think about it till I was home in bed thinking like, man, that guy could have shot me.
Yeah.
You know, but at the time, and it's the same thing in this. But you go back 2003. Okay, March of 2003, and that I still, matter of fact, my screensaver behind me, my green screen back there, it's in that area. That's how long I've been going to this place. Me and my guest last week, Brian Baker, that was on here, is a longtime friend of mine. He and I were down in this area investigating a sighting by a man that was riding horseback, and we had heard something following us in the cover of the brush, really thick trees next to the creek as we were walking and fishing, and it would whistle once in a while. Not like you'd expect a human to whistle, but it almost, what I try to compare it to now is like the old-fashioned teapots. When you set them on the stove and the water gets to boiling, that whistle starts to build up. It's kind of like that, but not loud, just kind of like, but it felt like it was more like the whistle coming from not the lips, but deeper. But anyway, we didn't, thought probably entered our mind. But anyway, later that night, we're back at camp, and it's drizzly rain. And of course, I generally don't sleep in a tent. But what we did, we put a tarp between the trees over us to kind of, keep the drizzle off us when we're sleeping. So after around 2:00 in the morning, we're both asleep. But anyway, we're woken up by the sound of a rock hitting a tree right outside of camp. And it's a big, loud crash. And when we looked, this tree was about the rock weighed about 25, 30 pounds, and it had been thrown against the side of this big oak tree about 20 foot from where we was sleeping with force, and it had hit the tree, dented into it, and landed on the ground under it. Now, after that happened, there wasn't anything else happened that night. I guess it got its point across and walked away, and the impression I got, I've heard people tell me, well, that was aggression. I said, no, aggression would have been throwing the rock on top of us. That was something letting us know that it was there and probably would rather us not be. So when you've heard that whistle, hearing this bothers you.
I think he means when you've heard them do that whistle, hearing somebody explain it, kind of creeps you out a little bit?
No, not really.
No.
I'm just curious. I'm not a brave person, but my curiosity far outweighs my good sense. I'll put that. So,
all right.
That's all I can say. Yeah, I get scared of stuff. But like I say, my curiosity is more powerful than the other. And that, I'm not saying that's necessarily a good thing, you know.
I think that's probably the best way I've ever heard that put, though, honestly, truly, because I get nervous still. I get so nervous out there, but like I'm so dang curious. Like I have to find out what's going on.
There have been a couple of times when I've been solo camping. It's only happened actually only once. But one time I was solo camping in an area, and there had been a fire down there at some point. It burned off a lot of the underbrush. But earlier that day, I'd spent time just shooting footage of cottonmouth, the venomous water snakes we have down here in the wild, and documenting that. And I got a really good little short YouTube short of one of these cottonmouths striking at me from under a rock, which is real. But anyway, later that evening, I had such a sense of foreboding and being watched that I left a particular camp anyway and moved to an area where I could get out quicker if I needed to, because where I was at, I was so deep in there. And Cornell, if you know who I'm talking about, has a No Such Thing podcast. Will from Will Star Mysteries, they both been there. They can tell you where that area is. If you need to get out of there, it's not a quick exit. You've got to meticulously and carefully pick your way down that trail, or you will bust an oil pan out of your vehicle. So that time, I do trust my senses, and I would stress this: you get that feeling of danger. I really believe that is something that's still in us, that's a leftover from a time in our development when we were much further down the food chain than we are now. Mm-hmm. And it's a wise thing to listen to it. Yep. So that being said, I moved down to a campsite lower down the hill with a clear road to it where I could have got out easier then. So I'll say that. Now, the crowning part of my research into this happened the summer before last. I went to a place where I was going to solo camp. I was unloading. It was almost dark. It was dusk, but still enough where you could see, really well. And I was unloading my stuff out of my truck. And where I was at was up kind of on the ridge. And then below me, there's a creek. We're not way down, not as deep as there in the Comishes. Where I generally go. There's a creek here, and then it come up. This was bottomland here, creek bottomland. But you go down, you got the little creek there, and it goes up on the other side, and it's thick brush. And while I'm unloading my stuff out of my pickup, I turn and I catch a side of something out of the corner of my eye. And, you see it, your brain is processing it, tree stump. And that's like, no, that is the biggest wild hog facing me straight on that I've ever seen, where you could only see two legs, whatever. And when I turn and look at it, it just stood there for a couple of seconds, but it was a bipedal figure covered in grayish black hair, standing upright, looking at me. And this was about 75 feet away from me, as best as I can tell. Not make out any facial features, just that the face was very dark. As soon as I turned my head back and locked on it, it turned and shot off into the woods, making very little noise, if any. I don't even recall. It could be shock or whatever, but I don't recall it making any noise as it made its escape from there. Now, as soon as it disappeared, I'm just standing there staring, processing this. And right after it disappeared into the woods, I start to hear this guttural, like chattering, just up from it on the same side of the opposite side of the creek. And then it was answered by that same kind of chattering on the same side of the creek that I was on, only further down from me. So what was that? This thing that took off from me was only, to my best estimate, 4.5, no more than 5 feet tall. So was it a juvenile that got careless and got seen, and that was the adults griping at it? I don't know, but that was that, and I remember just thinking, man, I finally saw one of these things. I finally got a good, finally got a good view. It fleeting, but he'll say, "Are you positive?" I was like, "Well, what else would it have been?
Yeah.
What else?" So
Process of elimination,
yeah,
it,
yeah, for sure. And the thing is, the reason I was there is a few weeks before that, there was a man down there cutting firewood, and had told me that something had been throwing pebbles at him when he would take a break from cutting wood and stuff. I said, well, that's kind of uh, a habit these things tend to have. So I'm going to go. And I was from where he was cutting wood, probably half a mile, maybe, if that. I'm thinking through the woods. So
okay, so you were close.
yeah, I was close. No more, a half mile would be stretching it. It may not have been quite that far, but you're going through the trees. It seems like a lot further.
Yeah, the pebble thing, man, the throwing stuff at people, definitely seems to be something that they just love to do.
Historically, I mean, goes
Yeah.
back, a long, long time. And think about it. There's only two things in the woods that can throw rocks, at least
Right,
on this continent, and that's the human or our friendly neighborhood Sasquatch.
right, right. I know. I try to tell people this, like, who I was having a conversation with my aunt the other day, and she's not a non-believer. She's open to it. She's just kind of like she's kind of like middle of the ground, like, oh, I'd have to see something to really believe, or I'd have to have something happen. And I'm like, listen, just come with me. And, I can't guarantee it's going to happen, but if you come enough, there's going to come a time where you're going to get stuff thrown at you, especially if you go to one of these two places where it happens regularly. And she's like, well, how do you know it's something's getting thrown at you? It could be somebody else. I'm like, well, not when you're, surrounded by woods around you, for 8 miles on every side of you. It's just woods. I said, and there's nobody around. You know that. So there's only two things out there that can throw stuff: humans and these things. And I promise you, when you're out there and they start throwing stuff, you'll know it ain't no human.
Or unless there's some other kinds of mysterious beings out there that we don't know. I like to, like I mentioned before we went live, I hope there's always an unsolved mystery of some kind out there. That's what makes life interesting to me.
Sure does.
I would probably die of boredom if I didn't think there was anything left to discover in this world.
Uh-huh. I totally agree. I think that's one of the coolest things about this world. Think about just the oceans alone, like what could be down there. And now I know I'm not one of those people who believes that megalodon exists. I don't think that.
I don't think that's a possibility.
I don't.
Those guys would be surfers like popcorn.
Yeah, man. Yeah, they were not. So they weren't a very deep water, super deep water animal anyway. They were, just like
probably like a supersized great white shark.
Right. So they'd be caught on radar at some point. They'd show up. They'd have to come up to the surface. They'd have to obviously hunt. And if they were like a supersized great white and they hunted similarly, then they'd be, shooting up underneath whales and all kinds of stuff like that. And
think about the ocean, though. I think the mysterious giant cryptid type things are going to be more along the lines of the giant squid.
Yeah, right.
Deep water stuff that occasionally comes up to the surface and eats a few sailors or something, But
right.
I think it'd be more like the cephalopods and such as that, more than it would be the vertebrates.
I agree 100%, because the things that live in the deep water are those things, and are these weird other creatures that can kind of create their own light because they're in the dark, and they're just some strange, weird stuff down there, man.
Oh
Really,
man, I've got a book at home that's got like a real thick book, fairly well within the last 15, 20 years or so, deep water pictures of the life that's down there. And it's just crazy.
crazy.
It's just wow.
Yeah. So I would imagine what your theory is probably the right one. I don't think there's giant sharks out there, or
I could be wrong. We could all be
maybe.
wrong. But I think megalodon, a breeding population of those, 60 to 100-foot long predator. That's going to be eating some stuff, man.
Yeah, it's gonna, and there's gonna be some leftovers somewhere.
Right. Yeah, those killer whales, they wouldn't be picking on them, man.
No, God, no. No, that'd be
those are the bad boys of the ocean right there. Now, those guys ain't afraid of nothing.
Nothing. They take out great white sharks. I mean,
if they can't get the great white by themselves, they'll bring their buddies and they'll chew his butt.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They hunt as a troop, and they'll surround that thing and mess with it and bump it and bang it and disorient it, and then it's really, it's brutal, but it's incredible at the same time how they hunt. It's
cryptic crystals over there talking about the pressure underwater. I'm a scuba diver as well, and just down as far as what we go, it's you get down 100 feet, you feel it, pressing on it. If you come up too fast, breathing that compressed air, it can kill you.
You're in deep trouble. Yeah.
Decompression sickness and all that stuff.
Yep. So, they have to put you in the hyperbaric chamber and whatnot, try to help you out.
Yeah. Matter of fact, that's not having to do with Bigfoot. When I was taking my training for a rescue diver, the instructors that went down to this lake to build up, because they put you through these scenarios where you rescue a diver in distress, and they were looking out there and think, well, we can do this, that, and somebody bobbed up out there, and they're watching this. I wasn't there yet. This is the week before I had my class, and they got to look, and they thought, well, somebody else asked, and they got to looking around and said, no, that's somebody in trouble. And they jumped and watched, swim out there and got him. What it was a guy that had just got his open water diver certification the week before, broke the first rule you don't do about diving alone, had went diving there and came up holding his breath with the breath of that compressed air, and had an embolism in his lungs.
Oh.
And they were able to get him out, get him on oxygen. They said if we had not been there, he would have been dead in the water. So just by chance,
wow.
And
that is incredible intervention, divine intervention. I don't know what you want to call it. That's
at the risk of setting a bad example for other people. People tell me I should not solo camp. Too much things can happen. I solo camp all the time, and I scuba dive all the time by myself.
And you're still here.
Yeah.
I'm pretty so enthusiastic about it.
Hey, nobody lives forever, when it's my time, I'll go. I'll look at death in this way. That's the next adventure.
Yeah, I think it's probably the best way you can look at something like that, It's I guess depending on who you are, right? For me, I was scared of it for a very long time. I was always like, as a kid, I was scared of death. But I think death. I was scared of death.
Yeah, I think we are as little kids.
Yeah. And even as in my early adult years, I was scared of it. I just, when I got to the point where like I reached 40, I'm 42 now, but it's funny where I reached 40, your mortality really seems to kick you in the ass at that point.
Well, here's the deal. I never had a midlife crisis. I'm 55.
Yeah.
I had my midlife crisis at like 25. I had a near-death experience. I just about died.
Yep. Okay.
So when you come back from something like that, you very much realize your mortality, but also the fear of it slips away when you've been very close to it.
Yeah.
Man, we're talking about stuff I've never talked about on camera before. So,
Well, hey, I'm glad. That's great. That's awesome. I think that's why I don't. I, I try to take some bullet points and then go from there. But that's it. I think that letting things kind of unfold organically, they go where they're supposed to go. That's just how I feel, and I think it
cryptic.
worked. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I'm sorry. I said,
No, go
Cryptic
ahead.
Crystal said it very well. Said, I've never feared death, just the type of death.
Oh, that's very well
That's a
said. That is a great quote. Wow. Yeah. 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 Gosh, there's those bad ones: fire, drowning.
right.
Yeah, I'm all set with that. I think if I got pounded by a Bigfoot, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. Oh boy.
I'd be okay with that. They would listen. A 9-footer, 1,000 pounds or more, he's gonna take one swipe at me and I'm done. I won't even feel it.
Yeah. What's your thoughts about that? I don't hear. I have said this every time I do a talk, and just this last year, I started speaking at some of these conventions a little bit, and the questions inevitably. What about this? What about that? What about them doing this to you? I said, look, if Bigfoot is out to get us, he is not very good at it.
Yeah, that's my thoughts. 100%.
Because I can put out 1,000,001 BS stories that people have. I can tell you about the hoaxes. I can tell you that somebody said they shot a Bigfoot and they wanted me to come look at the body. I said, where is it? Where are you at? And then wanting me to come along. I'm like, no, sir, I'm not.
No.
Put up or you put up, because either you did or you didn't. And you don't go meet somebody at some coordinates way out in the woods, but come along. No, I think
Yeah.
crack or what?
Yeah. I was born on a day, but it wasn't yesterday.
But no, I mean, and even look at it historically, the reports from the past where a Sasquatch has been aggressive toward people. I think we need to be careful to not confuse self-defense with aggression.
Right.
Because I mean, look at the Bauman thing that Teddy Roosevelt talked about. Before that person was attacked and killed by what we're presuming may well have been a Sasquatch, they shot it or shot at it from the opening of the lean-to. Ape Canyon, they were just watching the miners. They were curious until one of them decided, hey, look, Bubba, let's shoot that thing. And off the cliff it tumbles. And then what do you know? They beat the crap out of the cabin. So those were in retaliation to an act of aggression on us. It's like when our European ancestors came over here. They called the natives hostile. It's like they weren't hostile. They lived here. We were the ones being hostile.
Right.
So, it's how you play on the words.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I always say
defense is not hostility.
No, not at all. And I always say this: if these creatures were truly aggressive and violent by nature, there would be a lot less people out here telling stories of seeing them, hearing them, coming across their structures or footprints or whatever. Because if they were aggressive and violent, the physical abilities that they have at 9 feet tall and 1,000 pounds or more, you would not have a chance in hell. I think one of them could probably take out, 5, 10 regular men without probably having too much of a problem. A
3-foot tall chimpanzee can rip apart and shoot the face off the toughest man in the world.
Yep.
Okay, and I don't believe that Bigfoot's just an undiscovered monkey. Okay, but just something that's tough, lives out in the wild, of that size. I mean, you can have a chance. And plus, and take this into consideration: how much stealth ability these creatures have.
Yeah.
How many times are we out there being observed by these and we don't even know it?
Yeah.
Like the one that I saw when it took off to the woods, it didn't make any noise. I mean, I think if one of them was out to get you, you probably wouldn't even know it till it got you.
Nope. I would imagine that's probably part of how they hunt is by surprise. People say that they find these things that look to be like they're maybe blinds of some sort. Debbie Jones was on the show not too long ago, and they talked about how on top of this ridge they found these holes that they could lay down in at the top of this ridge, and still have like room on either end of them, so something big could lay down in them. And they were like one after another, and they thought that maybe they were a place for them to lay while one of them chased these deer up the ridge, and then when they got to the top, they just popped on up and took them out. I mean, every theory is as good as the next because we don't know. But I mean, they're built perfectly for their environment, David. They're built perfectly. So
I had a guy argue with me one time. He said, "Hey, if these troglodytes basically are out there, how come they have not evolved?" And I'd never thought about it. Okay. But I just said it. I said, why would they need to?
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't want to get into a religious argument for anybody thinks different, but coming from an evolutionary point of view, evolution happens by necessity.
Right.
Adapt to the change. If you are already have a creature like the Sasquatch who is perfectly designed to exist in that environment, no need of clothes, no need of this, no need of this. Where's the necessity?
There isn't any.
There's going to be changes within the species, like, due to interbreeding and things like that. Take the shark. There's different kinds of shark, but still a shark.
Right. Right.
I mean, you talk about megalodon, from what we have on that, they're probably did the same thing the great whites did, just, at bigger size. So yeah, right. Crab. What is it? What's the horseshoe crab? Perfect design, has not changed in like
millions, right?
Hundreds of millions of years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, again, hey, any of this stuff I'm saying I can be definitely wrong at, but these are things I think about sometimes.
Yeah, but I think, I'm nobody. I'm just a guy. I'm a regular guy. I'm not a super educated guy, but I do my own research, and I do think I'm relatively intelligent. And just what you said is what I thought too. Is the necessity's not there. When you are perfectly built and suited for the place that you live, you don't need to become anything other than what you are. We are supposed to be the most intelligent creatures on the planet, right? The most advanced civilization on the planet, or living things on the planet. We have a hard time filming these creatures. Yeah. That right there speaks to how perfect they are for what they are. They don't need to be anything better. They don't need to evolve. We can walk by them. We can walk by them, I believe, within feet of them and not know they're there.
Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't say we're better than much of anything.
No.
We are the only species on the planet who destroys our very environment just to make a dollar.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's why the aliens haven't contacted us. I mean, think about it. If you were an advanced race of beings out there that had gotten past the need to kill each other because maybe you're a different religion than me, would you want to look at us and give us the power to get out there and join them? We would be the Klingons
Oh God, no, I wouldn't.
We would be the Klingons,
There's, you're right. There's a meme that I talk about that has to do with this, where there's two aliens talking, and one alien says, "Hey, I found this planet, and there seems to be this life form on it." And the other alien says, "Oh, really? Well, are they advanced?" And the one alien goes, "Not really. They're aiming their own weapons at themselves." I mean, he's right. It's right. We live on the same planet, but we're pointing weapons at each other. So in their eyes, they're looking and going, they have weapons aimed at themselves. Like, how stupid are these people?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were given this gift of this beautiful planet, and we've destroyed it just about.
Hope, but here's the difference, and I like to be an optimist when I can.
Yes, sir.
At least there are people now consciously trying to do something about it.
But is it too late, David?
It's not too late, but you've got to get it out of politics, because as long as you've got people that are making millions of dollars destroying the planet, they can hire the so-called scientists that will agree with their point of view to push it down the throats of the naive.
Yeah. But isn't the big problem that there's people on both sides? There's people.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not a partisan whatsoever. This is, it's the human flaw.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's somebody getting paid to destroy the planet, and then there's somebody getting paid to clean up what that person's destroying.
Right.
It is this kind of never ending.
Do you have children?
I have a stepdaughter, yeah, but none of my own.
I have kids, So to me, somebody that's dumping their wastewater, their whatever, into the drinking water stuff, because they're making a lot of money off of it. Somebody's deforesting this, knowing it's causing desertification and all of this stuff, and causing all this. They doing this, they know what they're doing is wrong. They're making millions of dollars, and they got kids. That's the worst form of child abuse. What are you leaving those that come after you? So anyway, that don't have nothing to do with Bigfoot. So
okay, it's all right. Like I said, it goes where it needs to go. But it does have to do with Bigfoot in the grand scheme of things, because Bigfoot is a part of this planet too. And I talk about this, where if these things are discovered, quote unquote, right, fully discovered, and everybody finally knows that they exist, this becomes a giant problem for people, because you're talking losing millions and millions of dollars in foresting, right, in the logging companies. You're talking about a humanitarian issue if they are related to us. If they're protecting the woodpecker, right, whatever the woodpecker of the week is, and I'm not saying I love animals, but I'm just saying if they're protecting a woodpecker from being killed and taking their home away, what would happen now with something that is related to us genetically? What would they have to do? It would be a giant issue.
It would. But see, you was mentioning logging. Logging does not have to have as negative effect as what it does. Clear cutting practices is what's bad. You can select cut the wood that's ready to be cut, leave the others to grow, and you still maintain the integrity of the forest. Some companies are steering toward that, but the clear, and here in southeast Oklahoma, it's a huge deal. You go down parts of the Comiskey Mountains, it looks like somebody set off a nuke.
Mm-hmm.
They replant, yes, but they replant only the pines, which there's no diversity in the ecosystem after that.
Right.
But somebody's getting a lot of money by doing that kind of lumber. So there you go. There's enough things out there that if we harvest our energy needs and stuff building these responsibly. It may take a little effort, but if they do it responsibly, it will not have near the impact on things. Yeah. And yes, it's something that I do a lot of study into.
Yeah. I think it's it's kind of an important topic when it comes to this stuff, because there's just...
down here in the part of the country, people tie religion into it too. And I've talked to people that don't believe that we can tear up the earth because God will come back and get us before he allows that to happen. Now, where in the world did you get that idea? And never said anything like that. I think we're supposed to be good stewards of where we live.
Yeah, right. I think isn't that the overall, as a human being, as a person, isn't like, and I don't know this for sure because I'm not the all-seeing eye. I'm not the Oracle cashew. I'm not. I'm not.
She's probably got the answers.
She's probably keeping them very close to the chest.
No.
But isn't that, wouldn't you think that is at least part of the big puzzle of who we are and what the bigger purposes are, why of being here, is to help each other, is to lift each other up, is to leave this place a better place than when we got here. At least that's what I want to believe.
Yeah, we should. People complain about the time we're living in. Honestly, man, I think it's a wonderful time to be alive. The way technology has gone to improve we live, the fact that I think at least in this country we're not killing each other over the same things as we used to. Maybe, I don't know. I just choose to be an optimist. Okay, we can choose to look at the rotten around us, or we can choose to look at the good. And I'm trying to, be the other way.
Oh yeah. Hey, my favorite quote in the world: "If you change the way you look at things, the things you're looking at will change." I think it's the perfect quote. If you wake up and you choose to go, if you wake up and the sky is pink and you're like, "Oh man, I freaking hate the color pink," well, then you're probably you're probably gonna have a crappy day. But if you wake up and you see the sky is pink and you're like, "Wow, what a beautiful sky! Let me go outside and get a look at this." Like that, you're probably gonna have a pretty good day if you choose to step outside with that attitude every day. Whether it's pink, gray, blue, green, black, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's all about your attitude and your viewpoint. So yeah.
Man, do you have any other stuff you want to ask? I need to be getting here pretty quick.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll get you out of here. I could ask you a ton of questions. I could keep you here for 5 hours, honestly. But why don't you plug your books? Tell us where to get them. Tell us you can show them. You can tell us the names and tell us where to get them. I will put the link up as soon as we get off of here, so we can try to get you some more sales.
All right. Well, this one here is Kiamishi Bigfoot, and actually the cover photograph is from one of my camps down in the Kiamishi Mountains. And this is nonfiction. It's about a lot of the stuff more in detail that we talked about tonight, my beginning in this subject and ongoing investigations. This is my first attempt at writing. It's a short novel called The Champé, which the Champé is a creature in native Choctaw folklore. And I read that extensively to write this book. So it is geographically and folklorically, if that's a word, correct in it. So I tie that into the legend of the Bigfoot mystery and wrote that book about that. And those books are available in ebook or in paperback from Amazon. Or if you live in Oklahoma, if you want to drive to Dave's Music in downtown Ada, Oklahoma, I will sell you a book there too, and a guitar if you want one.
Right on.
So, but both of them are available on Amazon. Just type in books by David Wilbanks or the title, and it'll pull it right up.
Well, that's awesome, man. I'm excited. I like having the physical copies. I really love books still.
Man, I'm the same. If you saw my house is pile of books with rooms built around it. You would think there was a dozen different people lived in my home. I mean, I've got books on stuff like Sasquatch, on world religions, world cultures, history, classic literature. I like to read a lot of stuff.
It's important. Look at this, please. Just look below. She's so good.
I know. I'm telling you. Cashew. Now, I know I've spoken to you before, but not face to face. Are you really AI? Or it seems like, man, anything you talk about, man, she could just pull that stuff up. I mean,
so fast. She's
got magic powers. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
And no, I'll say it for you too, man. I really appreciate Cashew. She has been a huge help to me on podcasting and stuff.
Agreed. 150% agreed. And to me, the biggest, I think one of the greatest things about Cashew is Cashew's approach to all of this is that same thing, is helping each other, lifting each other up, championing each other instead of you do your thing, I'll do mine. No, let's help each other. Let's come together. Let's see how we can help work together and further each other in this subject, in this YouTube thing. I think it's a wonderful approach, and she's very good at it.
I remember, I don't remember who. It might have been on one of my podcasts, but somebody in the chat had come on, and what was it? Steve Isdall. Okay, he wasn't on there, but somebody said, "Are you guys pro Isdall like that?" And she said, "We're pro everybody. Welcome."
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
Awesome. Perfect answer. Amazing. Well, listen, I know you got to get out of here. I really appreciate this. This is a great conversation. I think this.
Hey, if you want to do it again sometime, just holler at me, man. I've had fun.
I did too. I appreciate you sharing, that stuff with us that you hadn't shared with anybody else. Makes me feel really good and pretty dang special, honestly.
Well, man, I appreciate it, man. And if you don't mind, when we go off the live, I want to say a thing or two to you before we leave.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Absolutely. So we'll close this out now so we can get Mr. Wilbanks out of here. Thank you guys for tuning in. I will be back on Wednesday night with our good friend Fresh. He will be here to talk a little bit more about the things that he started to talk about last week. And we'll try to see what else we can get out of him. That'll be a very interesting conversation. If you were there the other day, that'll be interesting. And then after that, I have Mark Green on Friday. Again, another guy who's got activity on his property for many years, also at the hunting club that he's been at. He's been doing this for a long time. What a wonderful gentleman. He'll be on Friday. You'll probably see me before then anyway, guys. You know how this works. I'll pop on the live and do something, and I'll make a post also for
one.
Go ahead. Yeah.
One more thing. My YouTube channel is Bigfoot and More. Forgot to mention
and More.
that.
The link is right here on the screen, right below us.
All right. David's
channel, Bigfoot and More. Please follow him, subscribe, like, share, hit the bell for notifications. Part of the family, guys. Get in there. So I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Have a wonderful night. Thanks for tuning in. Until the next one, love and light to you all. Have a good night.